On November 15, 2008, 13-year-old Blade Reed was forced by his older brother, Benny Reed, under the threat of violence or death, under the threat of physical harm or death, to accompany the drunken Benny to the home of Mr. and Mrs. Voland to steal beer. Blade unwittingly obliged due to the threat, and he came along with his older brother Benny. Benny proceeded to enter the house while Blade waited outside. Benny shot and killed Mr. Voland and critically wounded Mrs. Voland. Blade Reed then entered the house after hearing the commotion, and Benny Reed handed Blade the knife he found in their kitchen, and asked Blade to kill the woman, saying there cannot be any witnesses. Blade refused to do it, and once again, under the threat of physical harm from his older brother, Blade had no choice but to kill the woman. But he wanted to trick his older brother by making it look like he was killing the woman, when really he was just gently cutting her throat, as not to cause any substantial loss of blood, which would kill her. In the end, Benny and Blade were caught and were both tried and convicted as adults. In the case of Blade, however, Blade was autistic and had a mental capacity of an 8-year-old at the time of the crime. And while Blade was in prison, these are the types of horrors he had been subjected to. Since Blade is in prison, these are the horrors and mistreatments that Blade has been subjected to. On January 6, 2010, an older inmate attempted to rape Blade. Blade fought back, and there was a heated verbal altercation, and you can see here Blade was sick and refused to attend class. He was written up and lost phone privileges and recreation privileges for the whole week. March 29, a much older inmate raped Blade in the shower. Blade was punished with 15 days in solitary confinement, 15 days loss for 2-for-1 good time, and loss of phone privileges for 1 month. Here he probably decided to fight back, and here he didn't want to be in solitary, so he did not fight back and allowed himself to be raped, yet he was still punished. It's 15 days solitary confinement. Blade attempted suicide by slitting his wrists. He was punished with the loss of 2 more weeks of phone privileges and loss of recreation privileges for 2 weeks. Upset that his room was disrupted by guards during a search, Blade refused to clean up the mess. He was written up for refusing to obey an order, but received no other punishment. April 30, 2010. Blade retrieved the basketball during recreation without asking the guard first. He was written up for being in an unauthorized area and lost recreation and commissary privileges for 2 weeks. May 24, 2010. Following horseplaying with his roommate, Blade was written up for disruptive, unruly, and rowdy conduct. He lost phone and recreation privileges for 2 weeks. Just 3 days later, Blade tattoos himself and cuts his arm. He was written up for disfigurement and lost recreation, phone, and commissary privileges for 2 more weeks. June 7, 2010. Blade was raped again by another inmate in the shower and cut with a razor. Blade managed to get the razor away from his assailant after being cut and cut the other inmate. Blade was punished with 1 year solitary confinement. July 22, 2010. Blade shut down while coming back from the showers and dropped to the floor in a fetal position. The guard said Blade kicked one of them, causing a bruised rib, while they were cuffing and shackling him. Blade was written up and received 1 additional month of solitary confinement. August 2, 2010. Blade attempts suicide a second time by slitting his wrist. He is punished with 2 more weeks of solitary confinement. August 5, 2010. Blade attempts suicide a third time by slitting his wrist. He is punished with 2 more weeks of solitary confinement. He is also written up for covering up the camera in a solitary cell and was punished with 3 more weeks of solitary confinement. August 12, 2010. Blade attempts suicide a 4th time by cutting his arm. He is punished with 1 more additional solitary confinement. Blade was also written up for resisting while being restrained by staff and was punished with 1 more solitary confinement. Blade was severely beaten in a solitary shower by another inmate. After he was injured, Blade once again managed to get the weapon away from and cut the attacker in self-defense. Blade was punished with 6 more months' time in solitary confinement. August 26, 2010. Blade was assaulted and injured again in the solitary shower by another inmate. Blade managed to defend himself and get the weapon away from his assailant. Blade was punished with 6 more months additional time in solitary confinement and loss of all 2-for-1 good time. September 5th and 6th. Blade was written up again for covering camera monitor in a solitary confinement cell. Blade was injured during a takedown by staff. He resisted, received a write-up, and of course was punished with 1 more month of solitary confinement. While recuperating in the medical unit from his staff-inflicted injuries, Blade was injured by another inmate. Blade tried to get the weapon away from the other inmate and was injured again by staff trying to subdue him and de-escalate the situation. Because Blade resisted, he was written up and punished with 6 more months additional solitary confinement time and placed on habitual violator status. Because a desk was broken during the de-escalation, Blade was written up for destruction of state property. Let's summarize these adult consequences to which Jim Oliver so glibly alluded for the benefit of the media and Brown County voters. Over an 8-month and 12-day period of time in an adult prison, Blade Reed was raped 2 times in almost 3, attacked by other inmates 3 times with weapons, shanks or razors, seriously injured by staff once, and attempted suicide 4 times. Lost all game time, lost recreation, phone and commissariat privileges, and had numerous psychological episodes for which he received inadequate therapy and an excess of severe punishment, which only exacerbated his mental health issues. He had been condemned to 2 years, 8 months, and 18 days of solitary confinement, which has been shown to be cruel and unusual punishment, especially for mentally ill inmates whose conditions only deteriorate under such conditions. Until Blade's advocate, Stephen, hired attorneys to remedy this abusive and damaging treatment, Blade had been scheduled to remain in solitary confinement until at least August of 2012. It is important to realize that these events occurred only 2/3 of the way into the first year of a 30-year sentence, and that Blade's autism and untreated ADHD and PTSD do not offer much hope that he will ever be able to successfully navigate life in an adult prison. If we were to extrapolate his experiences onto a 30-year time period, this would mean this vulnerable young man could be raped 88 times, attacked with weapons 88 times, injured by staff 29 times, and might attempt suicide 117 times, if he even survives long enough for this litany of horrors to play out. I don't know if I could read the rest, but this is very, very, very tragic. And what's worse is that, as a child, Blade Reed was raped by his parents. And I'm going to read this article. Beanie insisted, and Blade cut the wife's throat but didn't cut deeply because he didn't want to kill her, but he didn't want to upset the brother. This all happened just a couple months before Blade turned 14. During the trial, the prosecutor was accused of vindictive vengeance. A motion was filed. I read through the courtroom transcripts, and after being tested, Blade was diagnosed with ADHD and severe mental delays. It was highly recommended that he go to a juvenile detention center until he was 18 and not to an adult prison. The judge also made that recommendation, but the prosecutor put him in adult prison in Indiana, Wahbash, where Blade has been gang raped twice and tried to commit suicide. Actually, 4 times. Instead of getting him the mental help he needs so he can improve his coping skills, they keep sentencing him to more time and, of course, just subjecting him to more and more abuse. This article is from May 14, 2012. This article is from October 26, 2012. This is so tragic. I just hope the governor could pardon him. I'm just speechless. I can't believe that this barbaric, this barbaric treatment would be used against such an innocent child who only cut the woman's throat to save his own skin. He didn't want to hurt the woman. He would have been killed by his brother had he not done so. Damn. I just hope those people are proud of themselves for basically ripping apart a child who's already been torn apart. Just to add salt to the wound. The child's been raped as a kid, tortured and abused for much of his childhood. And how to end childhood? More abuse, more torture. Just what the kid needs. Just what this kid needs. Oh my God. I am appalled by what happened. May God be with you, Jim. May God be with you, Reed. May God be with you, Blade. May God be with you, please. May the Lord have mercy on those who have done you wrong. Especially you, Jim Oliver. You should be ashamed of yourself. You should. If I were you, I would fear God. I would fear Him. You should be ashamed of yourself. Please. If you're watching this video, please sign my petition and end this kid's torture. Get him the help that he desperately needs, and get him out of this barbaric treatment that he's been enduring for so long now. He's known nothing but abuse and torture for the last 18 years of his life. I hope karma happens and he gets all the justice he deserves. Blade Reed deserves justice. He deserves justice. I hope justice is gonna serve Blade Reed and help him. I hope Jim Reed gets his dose of justice and people like Jim Reed belong in prison, not Blade. Blade is only. I'm sorry. Can't continue anymore. Well, thank you for watching the video. Please sign my petition. Blade's life depends on it. I don't know what else to say.